Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Sharon's fatal attack against Heather, a bad nightmare. The Young and the Restless spoilers document that Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, seemingly kills Heather Stevens, Vale Bloom, and dumps her body into a river. But a series of delusional nightmares evoked through Sharon's unstable mental state creates a natural question. The fans are collectively wondering, did Sharon kill Heather, or are they watching another nightmare? If Sharon killed Heather, then she would be eventually caught. Alternatively, Sharon could guilt herself into confessing. The challenge with this type of plot is that Sharon could not be imprisoned for life. Case is a main character, so this outcome is only possible if she's knowingly working her final storyline as a regular cast member. However, if Sharon killed Heather, she could receive a light sentence because of her mental health issue. That would likely still require many months, if not at least a year, in a prison's mental health facility. Would decision-makers put Sharon in that limited role indefinitely? All that viewers saw could be real, but Heather does not have to die. Sure, Sharon believes Heather is dead and disposed of her body. Normally that would mean any human being, even if still breathing when dumped in a river, would drown. However, there are various storylines where an assumed dead character survived. In more recent years, Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, believed she killed J.T. Hellstrom, Tad Luckenbill, who, in a deranged state, attacked Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinel, Sharon Victoria, Phyllis Summers, then played by Gina Tognoni, and Nikki believed he was dead and buried him. Viewers eventually learned that J.T. survived Nikki's blow to his head and was buried alive. This precedent and other storylines that could be referenced suggest that Heather can make it. So, no murder would mean no murder charge. What punishment Heather, Daniel Romalotti, Michael Graziadei, and Lucy Romalotti, Lily Brooks O'Brien, would pursue offers plenty of opportunity for additional drama. Arguably, television's most impactful Not Dead storyline happened on The Soaps, a timeless nighttime soap. Dallas is the granddaddy of all nighttime soap operas. The iconic villain J.R. Ewing, Larry Hagman, came before Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, was created. J.R.'s brother, Bobby Ewing, Patrick Duffy, who plays Stephen Logan on Y&R's sister show, The Bold and the Beautiful, was killed off in the mid-1980s. Duffy wanted to leave the show and did, but Hagman later convinced his co-star and friend to return. Duffy's wife is believed to have thought of the idea of Bobby not having died, but that entire storyline having been a dream. And so, a year after Bobby was supposedly killed off, his assumed widow, Pamela Ewing, Victoria Principal, awoke and was stunned to see her husband alive in the shower. An entire season of Dallas was reversed with that line of dialogue, as fans were told Bobby's death was purely Pam's dream. Sharon was seen dreaming at the motel. Only a handful of her scenes would be wiped if Heather's death is nothing more than Sharon's dream in the outskirts of Genoa City, Wisconsin, and if not, all true fans of this genre value the mention of Dallas as part of their soap family's lore. The tension in Genoa City was at an all-time high. The summer heat clung to every corner of the town, but it wasn't just the temperature that had people on edge. There was a storm brewing, one that no one saw coming, not even Sharon Newman, whose life was spiraling out of control once again. For weeks, Sharon had been wrestling with unresolved emotions. Losing Ray had left a hole in her heart, but her past traumas still loomed large, particularly her long history with Adam Newman and the tumultuous roller coaster they had shared. While Sharon had worked tirelessly to build herself back up as a respected figure at Crimson Lights and a pillar of stability for her family, the scars of her past had never truly healed. Nightmares had started creeping into her sleep, vivid, horrifying images of chaos and revenge. At the heart of it all was Heather Stevens, who had returned to Genoa City after years away. Her comeback was shrouded in mystery, and many wondered why she had returned after building a successful life elsewhere. Heather wasn't just back for old time's sake, though. She was determined to reclaim a place in Genoa City, and her presence was causing a ripple effect no one could have predicted. For Sharon, Heather's return became the catalyst for an unexpected unraveling. Heather's reappearance brought back memories of her complicated entanglements with the Newman family, particularly Adam. Sharon knew all too well that Adam had a way of stirring chaos wherever he went, And now that Heather was back in his orbit, Sharon couldn't help but feel like her past was being dredged up yet again. But this time, something was different, something darker. One night, Sharon sat alone in her living room, the house dark and quiet. A half-empty glass of wine sat beside her, but it was the envelope on the coffee table that had captured her attention. A letter from Heather, the contents of which had rattled Sharon to her core. Heather had made it clear that she intended to step back into Adam's life, and while she had insisted it was strictly professional, Sharon couldn't shake the feeling that Heather was after more. The anxiety gnawed at her as the night wore on, her thoughts spiraling deeper into paranoia. What if Heather wanted to reclaim Adam completely? What if Adam fell back into his old ways, tearing apart everything Sharon had worked so hard to build? And then the nightmare came. In the dream, Sharon found herself standing in the middle of the Crimson Lights patio, her breath heavy as though she had just run a marathon. The normally bustling cafe was eerily empty, the tables and chairs scattered as if there had been a struggle. Sharon's heart pounded in her chest as she looked around, but what she saw sent a chill through her entire body. There, slumped against the far wall, was Heather. Blood stained her crisp white blouse, and her eyes were wide with fear, her hand clutching her abdomen as she gasped for breath. Sharon's hands were trembling, her pulse racing, but it wasn't fear that gripped her, it was fury. A deep, unrelenting rage that coursed through her veins, as if something inside her had snapped. "You did this," Sharon heard herself say, though the voice didn't feel like her own. It was dark, menacing. "You couldn't stay away, could you? You had to come back and take everything." Heather tried to speak, but only a choked sob escaped her lips. Sharon stepped closer, her vision narrowing as the world around her began to blur. It was as though she were moving through a thick fog, each step toward Heather slow and deliberate. "I won't let you take him from me," Sharon growled, her hand reaching for something at her side, a knife gleaming in the dim light of the cafe. Heather's eyes widened with terror as Sharon raised the weapon. There was no hesitation, no second thoughts. In a single swift motion, Sharon brought the knife down, and Heather's scream echoed through the night. Sharon jolted awake, her breath ragged and her body drenched in sweat. The room was dark, and for a moment, she wasn't sure if she had truly woken from the nightmare or if she was still trapped in it. Her hands were shaking, and she could feel the lingering remnants of the rage that had consumed her in the dream. It was just a dream, Sharon told herself, trying to steady her breathing. Just a terrible, horrible dream. But the terror of it wouldn't fade. Even as she sat there in the quiet of her living room, she could still feel the weight of the knife in her hand, still hear the sound of Heather's scream. It felt too real, too vivid. The next day, Sharon was unnerved but determined to push the nightmare out of her mind. She went to Crimson Lights, ready to dive into work and distract herself from a lingering dread. But as she walked through the doors of the cafe, her heart stopped. Standing at the counter was Heather Stevens, talking to a barista and laughing as if she hadn't been brutally attacked in Sharon's nightmare. Heather turned and caught Sharon's eye, giving her a polite smile and nod. Sharon's blood ran cold. The nightmare flashed before her eyes, the image of Heather slumped against the wall, bleeding and gasping for breath. The weight of the knife, the fury in her heart, it all came rushing back. For a moment, Sharon couldn't move. Her body was frozen, her mind racing. Was it just a coincidence, or was there something darker at play? Had her subconscious warned her of something, or was her mind unraveling in ways she couldn't control? As Sharon watched Heather walk out of the cafe, a chill crept down her spine. The nightmare had been so vivid, so real. She couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a bad dream. It was a warning. The question now was, a warning of what? Would Sharon's subconscious fears push her toward an actual confrontation with Heather? Or was this just the beginning of a deeper psychological spiral? Only time would tell, but Sharon knew one thing for certain: she would have to confront her demons, whether they were real or just in her mind, before they consumed her entirely.